Welcome back to another podcast of Heal Without Harm. My name is Dr. Clayton Durr, physical therapist, and today's topic is going to be how to heal faster or how to recover faster. There is nothing crazy or sexy about today's topic. It is simply the 4 pillars that we discuss with all of our patients to make sure they're doing what they can in their power to either recover from their workouts or to heal from their injuries. You're going to be using the same science for both, but it depends on what you're going through now and what body part you may be working on. If you are hurt, you're going to be trying to, of course, heal that area. But if you're just recovering from a workout, we're going to call it more that recovery kind of thing. Now, the reason I say it's not sexy is because I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to say there's this new science that we never knew about. It's going back to the basics, literally just that. There are the 4 pillars that we discuss. The first one is going to be hydration. Make sure you're drinking enough water, and then also complementing that with some electrolytes. We'll go into detail on these. The second one is making sure you're eating enough food. You're fueling your body appropriately. Of course, there's a balance, not too much, not too little. And then you can get into macro and micronutrients. Again, we will do that here in a sec. Third one, this is the one that's, quote, most slept on. That was a pun for all you dads out there, is sleep, ultimately. If we're not giving our body the time, literally the time of day, to go and rebuild all these tissues that are either injured or just simply worked out and need healed, we're not going to get the results we want. And the last one is stress management. I'll give you some small tactics there, but honestly, I acknowledge that stress management, especially from a psychological perspective, is not my scope. But I can give you some small basics to work on. You can see how that goes for you. And if you need me and you reach out to me and you need someone to help you with that, I can point you in the right direction. Let's dig in. So first one is hydration. I know on social media, I see a lot of different ways to hydrate. There's a lot of different discussions about it. Like some is like you need only filtered water. Some is any water that you can get your hands on. And then some of it's this new hydrogen water. I don't think you need to get bogged down with all those crazy details. Just get some nice, clean filtered water and call it good. Now, how much do you drink? That's generally the big question. How much water should I drink? The more I dig in to the science and the research, the more I realize there's not a clear-cut answer. There's general rules of thumb, and then there's adapting it or accommodating your lifestyle and making sure you change the amount of water you drink on that. So to not get too crazy, let's go into take your body weight, divide it by half, and drink that many ounces of water. For me, I'm currently sitting around 176. I divide that by 2. We're looking at about 88 ounces of water at minimum. I probably drink 90, 100 plus ounces of water a day, but I'm also working out 5 to 6 times a week. If we think about inputs and outputs, words that you'll hear me say almost every podcast, is if you are a desk worker, you work for 8 to 9 hours a day sitting at a desk, you go home, make dinner, sit and watch TV, you're probably not using up that much water. You're not sweating a bunch or anything like that. So you don't need as much water as someone who, let's say, is a triathlete who is sweating tons of water through 2, 3, 4 hour long workouts. I know that sounds crazy. So I would say start with that half your body weight in ounces, and you may not have to change if you don't do much. The more you work out, the more you sweat, the more you breathe heavily, because we are getting rid of water through our breath, the more water you should probably drink. Then you can just observe your symptoms. Like if you feel good, you feel hydrated, you're not thirsty, you're probably drinking enough. You look at your urine when you pee, and it's more on the clear side, but has a little tinge of yellow, probably good. If you're peeing stuff that looks like apple juice, you may want to consult your doctor, but of course, probably drink more water. The other thing that we can layer in regards to hydration is first focus on purely water. If you need to flavor it or something like that with some Mio or something along those lines, go for it. But just make sure you're getting in half your body weight in ounces in pure water. The second thing is electrolytes. Less people, I always pay attention too much to the details, but less people remember this as well as I do. But back in like high school, biology, chemistry, probably chemistry, we would use these things called semi-permeable membranes. And what it was is like this little sleeve of plastic that you could tie off one end, fill it with water or some sort of solution, tie off the other end, and you would have this pouch of water or some sort of solution. Let's say there was a lot of salt inside this solution. So you have a high amount of salt relative to the water inside this pouch, and then you dropped it into a vat or a big bucket of pure water. Naturally, at a chemical base, the water is going to want to equalize those solutions. And so all this water will go through that like pouch and try to fill up the inside and equalize the amount of salts inside the pouch relative to the water and outside. I tell you all these crazy details to let you know that first, you need to be drinking enough water. But second, your body's always going to want to keep this nice ratio between salt in your body and water in your body. So if you're drinking a ton of water but consuming little to no salt in your diet, you may still kind of, quote, wash out your electrolytes. You may still have some sort of dehydration imbalance where you can have brain fog, like lightheadedness, just feeling like bogged down type of thing. And so you may need to supplement with some sort of electrolyte or just put more salt in your diet. Of course, some people, maybe not the people listening right now, but some people consume a high amount of processed foods or ultra processed foods. Those foods naturally have more sodium and more salt in them, so you may not need this supplement. But the people who are eating clean, like a Mediterranean diet or like very, very whole foods, you may not be getting a whole lot of salt. And so that's where you can monitor your symptoms. You can see how you're feeling each day. If you're drinking enough water, start trying out something like Element or Relight. Those are my two favorites when it comes to electrolytes. Personally, right now, I'm more on the Relight bandwagon because they have an immunity blend, they have a regular salt like electrolyte blend, and they even have an energy one. I have all three. I love them. Again, that brand is called Relight, RE-LYTE. We also at Natural Wellness are partnered up with Element, LMNT. They do a great job as well. Pretty high amount of electrolytes in one pouch. No garbage in it. It's literally just electrolytes, a little bit of stevia, and flavoring. Mix it with water. There you go. Way better than Gatorade flavor, and you're not having all that sugar. So making sure you're drinking enough water, and then if you feel like you need a supplement with some salt, use one of those. If you're somebody who, when you sweat and then your clothes dry, you notice all of this like white lines because your body gets rid of a lot of salt, you may be someone who wants to drink some more salt or have more salt in their diet. Moving on to pillar number 2, we're talking about fuel. This is a tricky subject because it has to be tailored to just about everybody that I talk to individually. We have some people who don't eat enough food. Generally, I've observed it's females. They don't eat enough food or they don't eat enough protein and certain types of food. Then you have the other end of the spectrum. We know that in America, we have an obesity problem. Some people eat way too much food. But I would say what it boils down to is generally calories, protein, and fiber. It can get dicey really quick on like, what should I eat? Should I eat more of that? Is this a good food? Is this a bad food? What I would say is in general, most people should be eating anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 calories per day. Again, not too worried about that. I would focus more specifically on protein because protein is going to be the building block of all muscles. If we're talking about rehab and recovery, we need the proper fuel and building blocks to heal or rebuild our broken down muscle and body parts. So let's make this very simple. If you're a 150-pound person, going back to that cut it in half kind of thing, I think if you look at like the back of a label, they're generally going to give you percentages based on like 30%, like the recommended value. So very low protein recommended, but let me cut out the confusion here. If you're a 150-pound person, most things would recommend eating at least 50% your body weight in grams of protein. If you're a 150-pound person, you are going to cut that in half. That's 75. You should be eating about 75 grams of protein per day. If you eat much less than that, you run the risk of actually losing muscle mass just because you're not eating enough of the right food to sustain your muscle mass. If you want to hold there, I would say 50% is a great place to start. If you want to have enough protein coming into your mouth and going into your body to build muscle or grow the amount of muscle you have, you need to be eating probably 70%. So again, quick math, 7 times 150 or 0.7, so 70% of 150 is going to be 105 grams of protein. So if you weigh 150, just a smooth round number, try to hit 100 grams of protein per day. That's about 33 grams of protein per meal. So just have like a nice concentrated amount of protein at each of your 3 meals, and then make sure your snacks are fiber focused, maybe a little bit more like a veggie or something like that, or protein focused. And trust me, if you're focusing on protein at each meal and your snacks, you're going to feel pretty full, which is the other awesome part about protein. And they're even doing more studies that over consuming protein is not a bad thing. Your body can absorb generally all the protein that you eat. It used to be thought that you can only absorb 20 or 30 grams per meal. That's being debunked, like research article after research article. So stack it up, honestly. The other one is fiber. This is one that if you just start eating fiber 1 bars at 2 or 3 times a day, your stomach will let you know that you are not ready for that. But a good number to shoot for is about 30 grams of fiber a day. A normal fiber 1 bar has 10 to 12 grams, and a lot of different protein bars will have some fiber in it. And then also veggies are loaded on fiber. So shooting for at minimum half your body weight, but if you're trying to gain muscle, 70% your body weight of in grams of protein per day, and then shooting for 20 to 30 grams of fiber per day. If you hit those two things, I'm sure your diet is going to really change. You're going to be too full to eat processed foods, and you're going to start being able to rebuild muscle much better. You're going to recover faster. You're going to be sore for less long. You're going to be more full and overeat less. There's so many things that can come from just these little tiny changes that have vast actual implications secondary to that. So to review, half your body weight in ounces of water, half to 70% of your body weight in grams of protein, and then 20 to 30 grams of fiber. You are going to be very fueled and hydrated for all of your workouts and ultimately to recover. Athletes and club teams, load up your gear with Van Gogh Transport Services. Led by local Ironman triathletes, Van Gogh safely ships your bikes, team equipment, or even bulky luggage to out-of-town events. Focus on performance, not logistics. Explore more at vangohtransport.biz. And so I created this analogy with a patient a week or so ago, and I said, imagine a building that, let's say it had a tornado come through or a fire took place. You now know that there's been damage done. Let's say that damage is your workout, not an injury, but just your workout. And so damage has been done, and we know that this building needs to be built back stronger than it was before. So to build that up, you need time to build it. You need the resources. So you need, let's say like lumber. Let's just say it's built out of wood, lumber to do it, and then hydration. But that doesn't play into this very well. So we're just going to focus on the lumber or the materials to do it, and then the time. So the materials would be the truck showing up, dropping off a load of lumber. That load of lumber in this analogy is going to be the food that you eat. If you have to rebuild this building and you're only getting like 4 2x4s a day, you're never going to rebuild this building or rebuild your muscle like you want. So you have to be putting in your mouth enough, not only calories, but protein in particular, to rebuild this muscle and recover properly. Then from there, the wood's not just going to build the building itself. You need people to come in and do it. What's nice is your body does a great job of healing itself without supplementation. The thing it really needs is time to do it. And that time to do it is called sleep. If you are undersleeping, you are not sleeping enough, it would be like trying to rebuild this building, but you only get like 4 hours a day to do it. We know that we need 7 to 9 hours a day to rebuild this building or recover with your sleep. If you are not sleeping 7+ hours a night, then you can expect subpar results. So there's no use in going and spending money on supplements that anybody will sell you and all these new fancy gadgets when you're not doing the bare basics of sleeping enough. Focus on getting 7 or more hours of good quality sleep every single night and watch your whole life change. Do it for 1 week. I promise you, you will feel a difference. It'll feel kind of hard at first, but you will feel a difference. And it's going to give your body the time it needs to recover from the workouts that you're doing, from all of the stress of the day, whether it be psychological stress, super busy at work, handling your kids, discussing stress with a loved one because they lost someone or they're going through something hard. Sleep is what helps fuel your tank back up and give you the energy that you want, along with the other 2 pillars. So the things that we've covered: make sure you drink enough water, supplement with electrolytes if you need, or just salt your foods a little bit more. Second thing, make sure you're eating enough protein and fiber primarily, but make sure overall the general thing is fueling your body, giving yourself enough wood or material to rebuild this building of yours, and then giving your body the time it needs to actually do that rebuilding, which is sleep. Please try to hit 7+ hours. Everybody is different. I can do pretty decent on 6 to 8 hours of sleep. My wife needs 9 plus a nap every day. Everybody is different, but find the jam for you and follow it. The last one, and this is the one that I talk a lot with people on, less about let's see what we can fix and more just bringing awareness to it. The last one is going to be stress management. The body and the mind see a lot of different stressors kind of as the same thing. Psychological stress is just as challenging on the body sometimes as physical stress, at least the way the brain perceives it. And they both take energy to try to deal with. I have seen people come in with pain, whether it be in the shoulder, the elbow, the low back, the hip, that seems to have no musculoskeletal origin. It seems to all be like I'll assess their movement and I'll say, like, let's look at your range of motion. Let's look at your strength. Let's look at your flexibility. Let's check all these things. And they seem to be doing just fine. But they're showing up saying they're in pain, which I fully believe because they are in pain. But it doesn't seem to be coming from a weakness or a mobility issue. It's like, you pass all my tests. That's what I'll tell them. I say, listen, you pass all my tests, but you're still having pain. So let's try some things because either my tests don't test well enough, you're stronger than what my tests can detect. So we need to ramp up the challenge, right? More weight, more volume, more reps to challenge you a little bit more, or there's something else here at play. What it ends up boiling down to is there is psychological stressor that they're under right now. They're going through something with a loved one. They're going through someone with a child, with a parent, with a brother. They're under a lot of stress at work. They have a lot of trauma in their past that's for some reason boiling up right now. Those types of things start to trigger these physiological changes that one book that I use a lot, or I recommend a lot to these patients in particular, he coins the term tension myositis syndrome. So tension, the muscle is tightening up. Myo is muscle, situs is irritation. So you have this irritation and spasm within a muscle secondary to psychological stressors. I think the number one thing that usually is seen is low back pain that just seems to not ever go away, and any sort of intervention doesn't seem to help. The second location is like shoulder and neck pain. Anecdotally, what I've observed is for females, it's generally between the shoulder blades, more on one side than the other. But between the shoulder blade and the spine, they'll have this spot that feels like a rib that's out. They've tried strengthening, they've tried stretching, and just nothing seems to work. This may be something that's playing into it. The last one is elbow pain, which I think is odd, but I have seen this before. Again, it seems like any intervention doesn't seem to help. Now, not many people have only that on its own. Usually there's a psychological or stressor that's kind of layered into it, which is why this needs to be talked about. And I always try to make my patients aware that there's a possibility that if in the right case, there's a psychological stressor aspect to it. So if stress starts to go up in their life, your ability or your body's ability to deal with this pain may be less, so the pain may be elevated. However, hurt doesn't always equal harm. So you may have increased pain, but that doesn't always mean increased damage. And that's where having someone like myself or a really good PT or maybe a counselor to talk through these things with, it's usually fairly easy to deduce whether or not there's increased injury and inflammation or if there's just increased pain. Sometimes that pain volume can be turned up even though damage volume is not. You're not more hurt or more injured. You're just hurting more, which is still an unpleasant experience, and that's why you need help with it. But it's important to know that that's not always the case. Like, you're not more damaged necessarily. You may just have more pain. One analogy that I think goes with this is, think about the last time you got a sunburn. Usually day of, it's not horrible, but you know the pain's coming. The next day, you are super, super sensitive and your skin hurts. If you go get in the shower and the water's hitting your back, you are not getting further damaged. Your skin is not taking on damage. But by golly, does that hurt? So you're having a lot of pain. You're having a high pain experience, but you're not necessarily having high damage experience. You just have a very sensitive tissue being pelted with water. Sometimes that can be very true when it comes to pain. You can have high amounts of pain, but not necessarily high amounts of damage. We would call that high irritability. And that's something you'll probably need help navigating with a good physical therapist or a good counselor who kind of knows this realm. But knowing that those are sliding scales and that's going to play into your physical therapy or your rehab or your recovery is very important. I want to tell you a little bit about the new life hack that I just found. It's something called the Whoop Band. It's a wearable health tracker with no screen, just powerful sensors that track your sleep, recovery, strain, and even stress 24/7. I've been using it daily to see how my habits affect my body in real time. It's helped me eat better, rest smarter, shed a couple extra pounds, and stay consistent, all because the data is personal to me. Whoop is offering my listeners at Heal Without Harm an exclusive free month. Just hit the link in the show notes to try it. There's many other tactics that I'll go through, but those are evaluation and plans of care types of discussions, so those would be very nuanced to the person that's in front of me. To finish up and wrap up for today, the 4 pillars is hydration, fuel or food or nutrition, sleep, which I would say is probably the biggest one you need to focus on, and then stress management. If you can make sure all 4 of those pillars, you're absolutely crushing it, you're going to recover way faster and you're going to heal way faster at maximum potential. If you're missing on any 4 of those, what I would say is you have a massive lever that you can pull to help speed things up. If you're crushing it on all 4 of those, I would probably say we're missing something, or you just need to be patient and disciplined. But most of the time, one of those 4 levers is the missing link in people's recovery or rehab that we get to uncover in one of the first 2 or 3 visits. Lastly, if you have any questions along this or you want a little bit more breakdown, please reach out to me, whether it be on Instagram, TikTok, or my email, whatever way that you can reach out to me. Please ask those questions and I will start to get those answered for you and may even do further podcasts on any one of these topics in particular. Or maybe I'll reach out to a nutrition coach or somebody who's a little bit more focused in sleep. Or if you have someone you think I should have on in those realms, please send their contact info to me and we will get set up. I will interview them and give you all the information that you want to know. Also, if you're getting value from these, or if you've gotten specific value from this, or you have that loved one that just won't listen to you on the fact that you need to eat more protein, or that they need to drink more water, or they should take their sleep seriously, please just send this to them. Send it to them and be like, look, this dude is saying you need to sleep more, you need to sleep better, and it's going to help everything. Send this to him and it'll help. If you haven't yet, please leave a rating and a review. I think those things are going to continue to help me grow and get more cool guests on here and help affect more lives, because that's the mission of this podcast, is to get in front of more people. So whether it be on Spotify, you leave a rating and review, or be on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review, or simply just share this to your story and tag me. It makes me really happy. One gal named Anna Huff, she does it all the time, and it makes me super happy to see her post about this. And so thank you so much for doing that. I hope today and all these other podcasts are helping you learn a lot more about yourself, about the medical system, and lastly, just how to heal without harm. Thank you guys.